Gamers, welcome back to the channel. By the time this video goes up, Dragon Age the Veilguard will be less than a week away from launch, so to sate your thirst for Dragon Age content, me and my editor, Jen, sat down to talk about some of the theories that we have for what's coming up, or what could be coming up, in the Veilguard. Are we going to be right? Are we going to be wrong? I don't know, but why don't we just stop talking about it and get into the conversation. Enjoy.
Yeah, hit record, please.
Yes. Okay. I know. I feel really bad about it still, even to this day.
We got some good views off of it, though. Also, I believe
We
someone
did.
said that my tier list was better.
I was gonna say, Jen, I hope you feel really good about yourself
I do,
because
actually.
good. You know what? I put that in there because I was like, Jen has given me so much of like her time and her energy, and I really can't pay her enough, and she deserves this. So I was really happy for you when I saw that.
Instead of blacklisting that comment immediately.
I thought about it. All right. Okay. We're recording. Everything's good.
Wait.
Oh, hang on. Let me pull out. I made a little post-it note actually at work with all of my theories. I've got 4. Do you have a list, by the way?
I have.
You can go off the dome.
Points.
It's fine. Oh yeah,
like,
no,
I have.
Mine are bullet points. They're post-it note bullet
Yeah.
points. I'm not talking about
Because like I'm trying to be optimistic, and I don't want to set a lot of standards for the game. So I have a lot of. There are less theories and more hopes. I hope this is what's going to happen in the game, and I would love to see it. I do have, I guess, the one theory of like what I think is going to happen in the game. Of like now that you know about Solus and everything, about what's going to go down. So there's like the one kind of big one, but everything else is just kind of like hopes and promises that I hope pay off.
Yeah, I've got a couple here that are like I'm not sure about some of them, but it's fine. We'll get into it. Okay. Anyways, we're recording. I'm gonna clap like 3 times or something, just so you know. It doesn't really matter.
And you see that it's recording.
Yeah, there's a red light on. It says we've been recording for almost 2 minutes now. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I promise you. We're never making that mistake again. Okay. Jesus Christ. God. Okay. All right. Okay. All right, guys, we are here doing theory crafting with the editor, Jen. She's back again. She's been doing so great lately. I'm so happy to have you back. What's up, Jen? How are you doing?
I am so excited. We are, at the time of this recording, a week away from Veilguard. So
that's
it's getting real, people. It's actually coming. It's coming out.
That's right. Yeah, I didn't even make note of the date, but you're absolutely right. Yes, we are 1 week out as of this. Hopefully we can go through this. I think everything that we have to predict will probably be very spot on, very credible, very well founded, and therefore this video will just only need like a very light editing touch and we can get it out very quickly. Yeah, I'm feeling good about this. Are you feeling good?
Oh, I feel great.
Okay, great. I'm gonna open it up. Okay, Jen, we have not talked that much offline. We talked super briefly, but we haven't talked that much about what the format for this is going to be. All I said was we're doing a theory crafting video. Get in, bitch. We're doing a theory crafting video. Mean Girls. I never saw that movie. It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. Anyways, I have a list of bullet points of things that I think are going to happen. One of the things I think told you was to do that, was to make one of those. So you have one too. So here's how the format's going to be. Okay. I've been thinking about this all day. All right. Come along with me. I've got a doc open here and I'm just going to throw up our theories one after the other. We'll go back and forth, you and I. Okay.
Okay.
And I'm going to throw them up one at a time. I'm just going to write out the bullet point, quick summation of what our theory is. And then we're going to give each of these like a rating. Okay. And we're going to have to discuss it. Okay. So like, let's say I say like, let's see, my prediction, my theory for Dragon Age, like just an example one, right, is that Dorian gets like amnesia, right? Okay. And then you can say like, that doesn't seem likely. It doesn't seem very well founded. I'm going to give that an F, right? And
Right.
then I can maybe fight you on it, and I can say, actually, Jen, if you paid attention to his conversation with his father, blah 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 blah, right? All right,
Mhm.
and we can go back. We can defend our theories if we want. We can also be humble, and we can say, you know what, you're right. This is more of a wish, all right? Um, that these are the ground rules. All right, you're following me still, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna go back and forth, and if we have like an overlapping theory, um, then I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna do. I'll have you edit like a big confetti explosion on the screen because we're so simpatico that we came up with the same
Absolutely.
idea. Yeah. Okay. I'll start us off. Okay. My first
Okay.
theory. All right.
Mhm.
My first theory is that that you as in Jen the person are
Mhm.
going to have more well-founded theories than me because you're more familiar with this franchise.
I have spent more time with it. I feel like that's a valid theory.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't think we even really need to discuss it too much. I'm not even gonna write it down. I'm gonna give that theory a 10 out of 10, A plus, thumbs up, all that good stuff. All right. In all seriousness, here's what I'm gonna put this one up, and I think we might get like a little confetti explosion out of this. All right.
Mhm.
I think that the veil will be destroyed within the first act of the game.
Ooh.
So I'm writing that down now. Veil
Mhm.
destroyed within first act. Okay. Now,
So,
how are you feeling about this one?
I definitely think it has to happen at the beginning of the game. Like, clearly something needs to go on because I don't think there's going to be a blight. Some people have been throwing that theory around that we're going to get a double whammy of a blight and something having to do with the veil.
Oh, wait,
I
wait,
think
wait, wait,
it's
wait, wait. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
mhm.
Really quick, just for the audience, for our listeners, our viewers, and whatever.
Right.
Jen and I have been sheltering ourselves pretty hard from um marketing material for Veilguard, okay? So if you're watching this and you're like, of course the veil is going to be destroyed. They showed it in the trailer. Blah. We don't know that, all right? We're keeping ourselves ignorant, okay? Um I have looked
Full
at
disclosure, the
yeah,
last thing I saw that was any kind of promotional material was the trailer that everybody hated that introduced the characters. So that's the last thing that I saw.
hmm, I did see that, and I did see another thing. I'm going to fess up to this, okay? I did see
Mhm.
another thing where it was like a gameplay trailer or something. And
Mhm.
I think within like the first like 10 seconds, um, there was, I think, a part where I think it was Varric is like in your party and he's saying like, we got to get up there and stop Solus. And I was like, because at that point I hadn't finished Inquisition and I was like, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off. I have this. So yeah, Inquisition, this ancient 10-year-old game was spoiled for me in that moment. But
Ah.
that's all I know. That's all I know about Veilguard. So I don't know if they've revealed stuff about the Veil and whatever, but I think, Jen, what you were saying before I cut you off, the
Mhm.
Veil might be destroyed right in the beginning. I think it's either going to be destroyed in the beginning or at the end of the first act. I do think they have to do it like quickly. I don't think that they can
Yeah.
like. I don't think that can be like a second act twist, you know. Um, but that's more like me thinking as like a story writer or a producer of a game, and not so
Mhm.
much as like drawing on my knowledge about the lore. What do you think?
No, I think it's not even lore at this point. People have been rabid for years to see what is going to happen with Solus and his plan to destroy the Veil, which you finally got to as you finished Trespasser. That was a great moment.
Yep.
Um, Definitely check out if you're waiting for his reaction. It was great. Highly recommend the video that's coming out where we do the diary on that one.
Yeah, that should be
Uh,
coming out shortly after this one, by the way, guys. I
yeah.
think we're gonna do this one first. But anyways,
But
continue. I'm sorry.
yeah, so I think it's definitely it's either an opener. You always have like the blight starts in Origins, or you have running away from Ferelden because the blight started in Dragon Age 2, or the rift. The rift happened
Yeah.
in the Veil. So I feel like that would be a great kind of opening to it is the veil is just immediately down and then dealing with the aftermath of everything. I don't know that they're going to wait until the end of Act 1 to do that.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree, and I think that that's a better like decision story wise. And well, here's another thing too that now that we're talking about this, I'm thinking about it. This is like occurring to me. I think that they need to just full on destroy it, because what's the only other thing that you could do would be like to put like a crack in it, but that's literally just the rift or the breach or whatever from
Yeah.
Inquisition. Like you can't just do the same thing again. You know, I say crossing my fingers.
Do you think, like piggybacking off of this one, if you want to put a little like under like an undernote underneath this theory, do you think, now that we know what's behind the veil and why Solus created it, do you think, because this one could be spared, do you think we're going to get the old gods, the old elven gods right away? Or do you think that's going to be later on in the game? Because we're going to see the elven gods. We have to. There's no way that they wouldn't do that.
You know, that's a good question. Before we get to that, I'm gonna say, what's the rating on the first one? And by the way, real quick, I didn't spell this out. The rating, like the system, the scale doesn't matter. Okay, you can say A plus on one of them, and then the next one you can say 10 out of 10, and then the next one you can say thumbs up. Okay, we're not doing like a consistent like 1 out of 10. It's just whatever you feel.
We're not ranking here.
Yeah, exactly. This isn't a tier list video, right? We're not cringe people who would do that. I'm gonna say Veil destroyed within first act. I'm gonna say a sure thing.
Yeah, and I would up the ante. I would say that's the opener.
Ooh.
Veil getting destroyed is the opener.
I'm gonna say probably the opener in parentheses. Old gods returning right away. I think we are going to see at least one within Act 1. Within Act 1, I think we will. I don't think yeah, I don't know why would you hold on to that, right? Because especially because and now also being fair here, I'm not like Jen's the lore expert, not me. I don't know what the Elven Pantheon looks like. I don't know how many old gods there are. But I mean, introducing like a new Elven god seems like such a cool thing to do in like Act 2, Act 3, right? Like, so one of them can just appear, show up, give you like a new little piece of information, fill in like some backstory stuff that you just don't know about up till this point. It seems like such a good idea, right? That you gotta start introducing them right away so that you can introduce more later, right?
I mean, we already know 2 of the elven gods, so you did find out about Mythal.
Yeah.
And now you know about Fen'Harel.
Fen'Harel, yes.
Do you think it's just going to be Fen'Harel? Do you think it's just going to be Solus? That's our first elven god?
No, I think before the end of the first act, I think we'll meet another one.
Okay.
I do think that. Because I think that we need someone who's like a little bit like on our side, you know? And then I think we'll meet at least one more. I think. Well, okay, actually, Jen, how many are there? Tell me how many there are. I don't even know this.
So Mythal was like the mother of all of them. My Elvish is not very good, so I don't know the names of all of them.
I'm not asking you to speak a language here.
No, I'm saying for their names. Like I just don't know their names very well. It's been a minute since I've had to speak Elvish. But Mythal is the mother, so clearly there's the father as well. And then I know there's like 2 sons. One is like the guardian of like death and like travel or something. There's the goddess of like the Hala, which are the like very special deer that you saw running around the emerald graves.
Yes, I love those guys. Yeah.
Yeah, no, those are Hala. They're very sacred to the elves. So there's like a bunch of them, but supposedly they're all kind of locked away, minus Mythal, who's dead, and Fen'Harel, who locked everybody else away due to the fact that they all turned on her and they murdered her. So I don't know. I feel like we're going to get one of the vengeful ones. I don't know how much, like, because I feel like they'd be pretty pissed at Solus. I don't know how kind of an elven god we're going to get. I think if we do, then it's going to be a goddess and not necessarily a god.
Mhm. You know what I think? And this is,
Mhm.
again, this is my like game story writer brain. All right. I think within the first act, we'll get a god who is vengeful, right?
Mhm.
Um, and I think we'll get at some point, either in Act 2 or maybe at the beginning of Act 3, we'll get a god who's like very ambiguous, you know?
Mhm.
Kind of in the way that, like, you know, Morrigan in Inquisition, how she joins our
Yeah.
party and she's kind of like, she's just like a little bit sus, you know?
Mhm.
I think we'll have like a god pop up at some point who's kind of like that. Um, yeah. This is just my writer's brain going. I'm not like, you know, I'm not
I
like,
know.
it's not like I know the gods and I'm like, oh, well, the god of mischief and illusion surely would be the first to escape from prison, the prison of the gods or whatever, you know.
Well, technically, that's Ben Harrell, so he was never in the prison to begin with.
Oh shit. Okay. You learned
Yeah.
something new.
So there's like two versions, or like there's a light side and a dark side. So apparently the ones that Solus put away are like the light side of the gods, and then there's supposed to be some that are like the dark versions of them, because he kind of went in between.
Mhm.
He was a gray kind of character. He was a gray kind of god. Um, so he kind of went through both things, but he ended up locking everybody away. Like, it's it's a lot. I don't know. I feel like we're gonna get one of the bigger ones, so we might even get Mithal's husband out, which would be really cool. But I feel like that's a Act 3 boss level if we do get him in this game.
Yeah, do you think Morrigan's gonna push us to do that?
I don't. Well, do you think she'll even show up in this game?
I have no idea. Um,
So we're into Vinter. We do know that much.
yeah.
It takes place majority is gonna, like, clearly I think we're gonna travel. I don't think it's gonna be like Dragon Age 2, where we just kind of stay in one place for a lot of it and then just sometimes travel. I feel like it might have some Inquisition-esque stuff going on, where there are other worlds to go and explore besides our base.
Uh-huh.
Um, but it's mostly into Venture. So there's a lot of Venture. Your best friend Dorian
Mhm.
is from Tevinter. It would be fun for him to come back and have some kind of cameo.
Okay. I didn't even put him on my list because I think he's such a sure thing. Um, but speaking of lists, Jen, if I'm not
Mhm.
cutting you off, if you don't have more to say, do you want to share
Mhm.
one of yours with me?
Of who I want to come back.
No, one of your theories, one of your bullet point list things.
So it pains me to say it, but the number one and the one that I'm the most sure of is that we're going to lose Varric.
No, you really think so?
I hate the fact that I put that out in the universe now, even though this game has been made completely not keeping me into any kind of loop. But I feel like we're going to lose Varric. I don't know when. I don't know when. I don't know if it'll be right away, or I don't know if this is going to be a self-sacrificial move at the end of the game. But I feel like we are going to lose him. He's not walking away from this game.
You know, um, God, this one's a hard one for me to weigh in on. Like, I guess lore wise, there's nothing like in the lore or the history of the games that leads me to believe that like there's a reason he has to die or that he has to live.
Mhm.
Um, I think, and now I'm gonna engage my developer brain. Okay, my writer
Mhm.
brain. I think that if I'm making people wait 10 years for a game,
Mhm.
I don't know if Varric dies in Act 1. Um, but
Yeah,
I
like, I
but
don't
I
think they're gonna
don't
Last of
think,
Us.
yeah, I don't think they're gonna Last of Us to him. Um, but
Oh, brutal.
yeah, but I don't want to put all my chips on this one. Mostly just because I refuse to believe it because
I
I
know.
love
I
Varric so much.
No, don't even. I had to say this out loud just to prepare myself, because I have been in denial since this was still called Dreadwolf that we're going to lose Varric. I've been in denial, but I need to start. We're a week away. I need to start preparing myself mentally that is something that could possibly happen.
Yeah.
Mostly, okay, here's my thinking, right? Here's my thinking of why Varric is done. So
Okay.
we know that the only ties that Solus has to seeing anybody as like humanity, right? Because he's like, they told us at the end of Trespasser, it's like walking through a sea of tranquil. We're not even people to you.
Yeah. I love that line, by the way. It's so good, and it's so like it's there's so many other like games and TV shows that kind of like will have a villain like that who like they don't see humans as even being like fully people, but that's because they have like a vision of humanity that's like more than what we are. I love that story element. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but I will just say, like, for however many people are watching my channel who jumped on during like the Final Fantasy videos, I'll just say Shadowbringers, and you'll know what I mean. They'll all get it. Yeah. But also, I will say, Jen, I've written down here next to Varric dies, I've written down probable. All right.
No, but here.
But go ahead. Hit me with what you were gonna say. Hit me with what you were gonna say.
It might go up. So Solus doesn't see anybody else as people besides, like, I guess Scout Harding, even though we don't really know canonically that they talked. Besides Scout Harding, Varric is the only tie that we know for sure, because that's another side theory that I think the Inquisitor is going to come back. I don't know in what capacity, but I feel like the Inquisitor is going to come back. We don't have it guaranteed, though. So Varric is the only guaranteed tie that Solus has to the world to try to convince him to not do what needs to be done, which is tear down the veil. That's what he believes needs to be done. Solus very well told us in the end, in his little epilogue, that he will do whatever is necessary to bring his people back to glory.
Yeah.
I feel like getting rid of Varric is upping the stakes. I feel like getting rid of Varric and what he would represent to Solus is very much also just kind of proving, like, yeah, he will do whatever it takes to get rid of him. I don't think it's necessarily going to be like a big self-sacrificial move. I know that's a big part of everybody else's theories, that he's going to sacrifice himself for Rook. I don't necessarily know that he would do that. If you brought back Hawk, I would believe that. I absolutely believe that Varric would sacrifice himself for Hawk. I don't know for Rook. But if it's a fight between him and Solus, I definitely believe that Solus will kill him, thus cutting the last couple of ties that he has to seeing the people of this world as people, because that might be the only thing holding him back from doing what he needs to do.
Okay. Interesting. I like where you're going with that. And it's funny because, okay. Do you have anything else to say real quick, or can I go to the next one?
I don't want to be right.
I don't want you to be right. I really want you to be wrong, but I do think that, like, I don't know when. I'm not going to make any strong predictions as to like where in the story that'll happen, but I do think that it is, like, I think it's more than likely, like a greater than 50% chance. I'm not at 100. Okay, I'm not even necessarily at 90% chance.
Like a B-,
but like at least a B- likelihood that Varric eats it on this one. However, the way you're talking about it, right? You're talking about like, oh, like this is something that Solus can do, right? He could kill Varric, and that would like sort of solidify his heel turn, right? I'm gonna make another prediction here. I'm gonna hit you with one of mine. One of my predictions here, and I'm skipping ahead because I have a couple ahead of this one, but I'm gonna skip ahead just because you're talking about it. I'm gonna make a prediction that Solus is not the final antagonist. I think that there will be, and I'm not going to put all my chips on another elven god. But maybe that's just because I don't know enough about lore stuff. I'm not sure exactly like who all is in the Fade. I'm not like sure what all is in the Fade. But I do feel like there's a good chance that Solus is not like the final big bad boss of the game.
I feel like that's fair. I think if there is going to be a bigger bad for this game, I don't know, because I'm not sure the direction they're going to take for it. Like I said in one of the other videos I was in, to me, the villains are never just like a person. I mean, there are bad people in it that are doing bad things that we need to stop, but the villain is always some sort of event. The Blight has started. There's a mage rebellion. There is a giant hole in the sky in the Veil. I don't think that I would feel comfortable putting all of my chips in the fact that suddenly the elven gods are the big bad and that's the big bad. That to me feels too personal. It feels like it's a person type of thing. We need to defeat a person as opposed to an event.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think they're going to be incredibly necessary in this, but I don't know that they're going to be the ultimate big bad, because to me a big bad is never a person, it's always an event.
Okay. I see what you're saying. I'm following you there. And I actually agree with you, because I think that for Inquisition at least, the thrust of the story is not about like we do find out some stuff about Corypheus, of course, but it doesn't seem like it's not like, oh, we find out like it like if Corypheus was a Final Fantasy villain, we would have found out like in the third act, like, oh, when I was in preschool, the other kids all bullied me, and now I'm a dick who's trying to destroy the world. You know what I mean? Like, we would have found out like so much backstory. But I feel like Dragon Age is on a different wavelength from that. I think Dragon Age is kind of like, there are some bad people, like there's a Corypheus, right?
Right.
And he creates a thing that we have to stop, like, and that kind of is like the big bad thing. It's a thing, not like a person necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, to kind of counter what you were saying, Corypheus is pretty clearly like the antagonist, right? He's trying to do this thing so that he can become a god. And it seems as though, just based on like the way that Veilguard has been set up, it seems like Solus or Fen'Harel has been positioned to be like, yeah, I'm going to cause a big event. And that big event is going to be the big thing you're fighting against. It's not necessarily a person, it's an event, or like a phenomenon. But at the same time, like at the end of the day, like, what was that event caused by? Well, by Solus, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's why, like, I'm not placing a whole lot of stake in my theory, but I do think that like maybe there will be like some other kind of event. Like, it's not just that the veil is broken, but like maybe there will be like, oh yeah, now that the veil is broken, it's not just that like, oh, now spirits are in the world. It'll be something like, and now the demon king has risen up. Or like, and now one of the elven gods has decided to take revenge on people or something. I don't know. That's kind of like what I'm thinking. And the only reason I say that is because I think there's a good chance, in my opinion, just again, this is my writer's brain, okay? Going on. I think there's a good chance that the writers might say, like, listen, Corypheus is like a pretty generic evil villain. And we don't want Solus to be like a generic evil villain at the end of the day. That's kind of boring, right? Like, you kind of probably grew to like him a little bit in the last game, which I did, right? And so just to kind of like make him do a heel turn and just be like generically evil, I think would be kind of boring. And I think the easiest way to do that is to do like a I think a lot of stories do this, where they do like a hatred shift, you know? Like, you have a villain, but then you kind of learn to have like some empathy for them and understand that, but the story still needs a villain, so they shift that hatred onto like a different villain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that they might do that here. I think it's a possibility. I think there's a strong possibility. What do you think? If you had to give this theory a rating, right?
I think there's a strong possibility, mostly because I do think that one of the choices that you make, or at least the one that's going to matter the most, my theory is the one that's going to matter the most out of all those choices that you had at the end of Trespasser, is are you going to redeem Solus, or are you going to take him down one? Yeah. So I think it's pretty likely, because I think that's going to be the one that matters the most in this game, and that might dictate how you're going to interact with Solus, because I feel like if the Inquisitor does come back, maybe that's where we get our lore dump for Rook on who Solus is, what backstory is going on here. If they don't give it to Varric, I feel like that would be a really good place to bring back your Inquisitor. And then you get information, but it's a grain of salt information if you decided that you're going to take him down, or maybe they like really sugarcoat him if you decide that you're going to save him. Like, it's going to be information, but it's up to you, because we have a detective in the group. So it's up to you to actually decipher how much of the information is true information and how much of it is coded by what you felt at the end of Trespasser. Are you going to save him, or are you going to take him down?
Yeah. I'm going to put, I think maybe we can, I'm gonna put down something I think we can maybe agree with here. I'm gonna put, for the rating for this one, for this theory, I'm gonna put comma, maybe. Do you agree with that? Are you in line with that? Do you think it's stronger than that?
No, I think that's fair.
Yeah,
mostly
maybe.
Because
yeah.
I'm very curious to see on what the shift would be if we're gonna suddenly shift all of this blame or all of this festering grudge that we have for Solus off of him. I'd be very curious to see how they would pull that off. It's not necessarily that I want them to do it. I just want to see how they think they could, because some people have been stewing on the egg for 10 years, 10 full years,
Jesus,
on him, on his decisions. And I can forgive a lot of things, but the fact that he lied to me, no, that never goes well. Any character in this franchise that I work so hard to befriend, and then they go up and lie to me, no, you're dead to me. How dare you?
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I think not to be too redundant, because I am going to do a video after this, guys, where we are going to go over Trespasser stuff. But Jen, you watched me do Trespasser, right? So
yeah.
You heard me say all the stuff about, like, I think at the end my final words to Solus were like, fuck you, I am going to stop you. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I was very defiant. I felt that in the end, I was like, it hurts what you did to me, sir. And I do not forgive you. I will not be magnanimous here. I am going to hold this grudge, So I totally feel that. Okay, Jen, hit me with another one of your theories or predictions.
So out of all the characters that I think are going to come back, I do think the Inquisitor is going to come back. The Inquisitor has to come back. Like, it feels like this is a thing that happens in the Dragon Age franchise. Like, we didn't actually get the Warden to come back in 2, but we did get a lot of, like, wink wink, here are some characters from the first game sprinkled throughout. That to me added up equals a Warden. It all together, all the little, like, joy that you feel of seeing those little Easter eggs adds up to one Warden. And then we go to Inquisition, where we just straight up have Hawk being part of a mission. He's not just there to explain something to you. That's straight up a character that you go and you do stuff with. And if you're Andrew, you leave them in the fate to die.
Okay. Let's not dwell on that. Okay.
So I think there is more than a strong chance that we're going to get the Inquisitor. I don't know in what capacity.
Yeah.
I'm hoping we get something cool like we did with Hawk, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're just almost NPC-ish, where you just go and kind of talk to them. Maybe you get a nice little cutscene. Maybe you don't. But I do think we're at least going to see an Inquisitor.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to give you a rating here. It's going to be a pretty favorable rating. I'm going to say almost for sure. Because I totally agree with you. And as a matter of fact, I agree with you so much that I'm going to go into another one of mine. If you don't mind, I'm going to move on to one of my predictions. And it's going to be a little bit of a attachment to that one. I have a prediction that the Inquisitor does a heel turn, okay?
Oh.
Now for our audience members, for our listeners, our viewers, if you're not familiar with heel turn terminology, this is a wrestling term, okay? This is when a character does something, takes an action, takes a position that puts them in opposition to our protagonist, in opposition to goodness, places them in like a more antagonistic role within our story. And I think, and I'm going to put this with a caveat here, okay?
Mhm.
Um, I think that the Inquisitor doing like a heel turn and being kind of evil. I think it may depend on your decisions that you made in Inquisition, right? Because don't they
Mhm.
have like you've shown me this thing in Dragon Age where they have like this website that keeps track of all the major decisions that you make, and you've also told me about like we were having this conversation not in a video, but we were having this conversation just between you and me about
Mhm.
how certain characters like their hearts can be hardened depending on certain
Yeah.
choices that you make. Like I think Leilani, I think I hardened her in my playthrough, and that's
Mhm.
why as the divine, as the next divine, she is more than willing to like cut some throats, spill some blood, and that's because I hardened her. And I'm curious if they have come up with like some kind of like equation for the Inquisitor where maybe depending on the decisions you make in Inquisition, your Inquisitor going into Veilguard can be hardened and they can do like a heel turn, okay? And I know that's kind of complicated and that's like whatever, but like give me your thoughts. What do you think? What do you think about that?
I mean, this wouldn't be the first time. Inquisition wouldn't be the first time that we had the hardening or the softening, like of the heart, to happen. I know that was a really big factor in Origins. So right back at the beginning, there were a couple of characters that you could either harden and then certain things would happen, or you could soften their heart and then other things would happen. So it's not a new mechanic. It would be very interesting to see. I think building off of that, I would much more interested to see is if you did have your Inquisitor kind of harden themselves right at the end there, where they're going to take Solus down. That's what they're doing. They tore down their whole Inquisition to get this motherfucker. I would be interested to see if there's a way to soften them, not just have them be a hardened character, but a way to soften them over the course of the game. If they are more involved, to see if you could get them to almost change their minds and decide to save Solus. But I don't know how likely that is because it feels like that mechanic would have to be more of like the Inquisitor has to be more than just like a side character. They almost have to be part of your companions. I would say at least kind of like we had Liliana, Josie, and Cullen.
Yeah. What do you think is the what do you think is the possibility that the Inquisitor plays a role in Veilguard, kind of like an advisor?
I feel like that's pretty high. I feel like if they do, because I feel like it's all going to depend on whether or not the actual mechanic of being able to import your Inquisitor is going to be there.
Uh,
Because that reveal, like with Hawk, was huge. Because the thing that you were mentioning earlier is the Dragon's Keep. And
uh,
the thing that makes me iffy on if the Inquisitor is going to be super useful or not is that doesn't seem to have gotten any kind of upgrade. There's no addition to anything to make it seem like you're going to use it later. It seems like they kind of forgot about it. If I can be honest, like from
yeah.
last year when I've been checking it, like it feels like they've forgotten about it. And that's where everything has been stored. So I don't know. I feel like if they were going to use something there where they actually like bring in a whole bunch of information from your past saves, that is going to drastically affect it because there's so many decisions that if you've played the other three games that can get imported, and I don't feel like that's going to happen. I don't feel like that's going to be a thing. That's why I think if there is an Inquisitor, maybe we never see their face, or maybe they're just sending us letters. I really hope, at least like what they did for Hawk, where if you don't have a game to import, um, you can at least do jump into create a character again and make your Inquisitor. But I don't know. I feel like it's not very likely that they're gonna bring in the Inquisitor on that type of level. They're not gonna do it.
Okay, so you would say the Inquisitor being an advisor, like
Yeah.
Josephine Leilani, you think that's
Unless it's
unlikely?
yeah. Unless it's all through letters, I
Ah,
don't think it's likely.
okay. So you think unlikely. And what about the idea of them doing a heel turn? I guess you would probably say maybe that's unlikely too, because to be that involved in the story feels,
They'd need to be in it.
yeah.
It'd be really cool though. I would definitely play that game. But see, okay, so this is the other I don't know if it's a theory, but it's an opinion that has been going around where a lot of people want the Inquisitor to almost be like a co-lead character to Rook.
Yeah, you know what? Or I'm sorry, go ahead. Keep on what you're doing.
So you've only played one game, which is why I find this question to you very interesting, because your only attachment to this franchise is your Inquisitor. And even that, with the like really tight filming schedule we had, you only had time to do one playthrough, so you really only have one Inquisitor, and that had to be your canon Inquisitor. So how would you feel if they brought back the Inquisitor as a co-lead and it wasn't just Rook?
I feel like
like let's say somewhere in Act 2, like I'll give you a little bit more boundary so you can think about it. Let's say somewhere in Act 2 they did pull a Last of Us 2 where you start playing like as Abby and suddenly you're the Inquisitor again. Like how would you feel about like a co-lead situation here?
Okay, first of all, that would be insane. I'm gonna shoot that down right now. There's no way they're doing that. Absolutely no way. I think there is the possibility of them bringing back the Inquisitor in a role that is more than what Hawk had. Because Hawk was in like a one mission. I think there's a possibility that they do bring back your Inquisitor in more of like a Morrigan kind of way, where like they join somewhere in Act 2 and kind of stay with you through the rest of the game. I think that's a possibility, but I will caveat that, and I will say I think that's unlikely. And it's for largely a lot of the reasons that you said, and also because I mean, just the fact that like it's been 10 years since we've had a Dragon Age game, okay?
Yeah.
Now, I know that like the average age of gamers goes up every single year. Of course it does. The idea that like all gamers are just young kids now, that's not true anymore. At the same time, like I think the core demo of gamers still skews young. And the idea that like you're gonna say like, oh yeah, like this huge character from a game that came out 10 years ago, like the protagonist that the like we're gonna figure out a way to get them into this new game that's coming out 10 years later. I don't see it as being like I don't see it, because I think it's like it's one of those things where like, listen, they know they've been gone for 10 years. There hasn't been a Dragon Age game in 10 years. And they know that. And I think to put a bunch of like weight, like story weight, right? Like weight of the story onto the shoulders of a character that like a good like 50% to like somewhere between like 50 and like 90% of your players will not have like a load or a save or something to like put in there for you. Why do that? You know, it seems like you'd be killing the story of this game just to kind of like make fans of the last game happy. But it's like, dude, like the fans of the last game, like, listen, and I'm not trying to, this isn't me being like a bitchy YouTuber.
Choose your words very carefully.
No. This, I am. And everything I'm about to say is going to be backed up by facts and numbers and logic. Okay. And this isn't me just being a bitchy YouTuber. Okay. I've made a bunch of different videos on a bunch of different games, all right? I don't know like how many like of all the games I've ever made videos on, I think like the Dragon Age Inquisition videos, and it's understandable, the game's 10 years old, but the Dragon Age Inquisition videos, even when they're popping off, they're doing the worst, okay? You know? And I do them because I love them, and I do them because I want to make them, okay? I'm not here to bitch about views and whatever, but I'm just saying, you know, the idea that like you're going to cater to like this little crowd of people when you have the opportunity to draw in a whole bunch of like new fans,
right?
Why would you do that, right? I don't see them doing something like that. It would be cool if they include your Inquisitor in some way. Like if they find a way to include your Inquisitor, that would be
Mhm.
amazing. I would love that. There's a possibility that the game Dragon Age Inquisition went up for free on the Epic Games Store when it did, which is when I got it, by the way, um, because they want people to make Inquisitors so that they can be here for the game. But I feel like that's like a, I mean, what, like going up for free on the Epic Games Store for like a week? Like that's not really strong advertising. That's not really like trying to pull people in. Also,
Yeah.
the game's 10 years old. You know, you're not going to get a whole bunch of people to go back and play it, especially when they can just wait a few months and play the new one. So,
Right.
yeah, I think the idea that the Inquisitor returns in some capacity, I do think that that's like almost a sure thing. But like you were saying, right? Like in a capacity where it's not like the camera is right on their fully lit, fully rendered face, you know?
Mhm.
I don't know about that. The fact that they return in some capacity, yeah, almost for sure. Like at the very least, you're gonna get a letter from them at some point or something, right?
Yeah.
Um, but the idea that they become like a core part of your team, I don't know. The idea that they make an appearance, sure, you know, and maybe they do have the face of your Inquisitor from Inquisition. Sure, maybe. But I think I do think that like if I had to put like a guess on like something that's like a little bit more precise or specific, I would say it's probably going to be a little bit more like Hawk, right?
Mhm.
Hawk's in one mission, and that's like as like a big like service to the fans. And I think the Inquisitor is probably gonna get like a similar, maybe even slightly worse treatment. And I don't say that like lovingly. I that sucks. Um, but just because like when did DA2 come out before like what in like 2011 or something?
Somewhere around there. I know that that one got a really quick turnaround.
Yeah.
Um, but they did get more time compared to their Dragon Age 2 game. They did get more time to work on Inquisition.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, so probably like I don't know, 2010, 2011, 2012, somewhere's in there, I'm sure. And then you're looking at Inquisition coming out a few years later, and they're like, yeah, let's throw something back to that game. You know, the idea that like you're gonna throw like you're gonna give more screen time to the previous protagonist of a game that's like 3 times or 4 times as old. You know, I don't know. That
Well,
just
the other thing too, the other thing too with that is that Hawk is the only character that has, I guess, the quote unquote canonical look to them, whether you play as a female Hawk or male Hawk.
uh
They're the only ones that have a canonical design because, yeah, you can go into character creator, but like you can't make them Kunari. You can't make them anything but human. You can give
oh,
them
interesting.
blonde
Okay.
hair. You can give them dark skin. You can do whatever you want as a human,
Uh
but you can't do anything past that. And
oh,
that's
okay.
why, like, if you go back and you look at a lot of the trailers, the hawk that they used in the trailers is the hawk that is the basic standard hawk. Excuse me,
Yeah, of
is the
course.
basic standard hawk. So the one that you got in Inquisition is the one that was used in all the promotional materials.
Yeah, yeah.
So that is the quote unquote canonical hawk that you have for the game, which is why it was really easy to plug in a hawk. You could, at most, if you didn't want to do anything, you could do your own create a hawk and then make them female because maybe you played as Marion instead of Garrett. But you don't have that kind of safety net with the Inquisitor. So I know a lot of people are super 10 years later, they're still super attached to their Inquisitor. And the 10 years has only given them time to reinforce that tie. But I just don't think that we're going to get like a face reveal of our Inquisitor. I don't. Maybe we'll get something that alludes to the arm where we lost our anchor. Maybe we'll get some like the big chair shots or something. But we don't have the same safety net we did for Hawk to be able
Yeah,
to
and
do that.
it's
So
go ahead, I'm sorry.
yeah, I'm like, unless they jump into create a character super quick and we can make our own Inquisitor again, the save files are not there. I don't think they've done anything with Dragon's Keep. There is no canonical from promotion material that you can just drop them in and jump in as the Inquisitor to be recognizable. There's nothing there. So I don't think we're going to see the Inquisitor.
Okay. I hear everything you're saying, and I fully agree with you. However, okay, and here's one thing I'm throwing out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't necessarily change my ranking of this theory or whatever, but here's one thing I'm going to throw out is that, Jen, you and I were talking a little bit before we started recording. We were talking a little bit about, because you're playing through Baldur's Gate 3 right now. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, if you recall, Jen, in the very beginning of Baldur's Gate 3, once you finish creating your character, what is the next thing that you do? Do you remember?
Yeah. I mean, that's a way to get around it. I feel like that spoils it, though, because you don't get that great Hawk reveal.
I think, well, here's the thing that I think, right? You're right, but here's the thing is, if they do a thing where, like, okay, you create your character and then you create your guardians, or in this case it would be your Inquisitor, right? Slash, you can upload your own Inquisitor from the previous game if you have the save data on your computer or whatever, right? If they do that, yeah, it is giving away the reveal, but then I think the likelihood of the Inquisitor being like a very core part of the story goes up a lot, right? Because it's like,
that's true.
Yeah, like, okay, well, now we've made sure that everybody has an Inquisitor, and depending on like what race they chose and stuff like that, we can import like what are some of the likely decisions or whatever that they've made, right? For example, if you're asked to design your Inquisitor and you choose to make them an elf, well, then they can write it in such a way that, like, maybe you have a stronger connection to Solus that leaves room for interpretation that there was a romance between them without necessarily confirming it, right? I think that kind of thing could happen. I think a lot of doors open up if you do that. But yeah, I mean, but at the same time, I'm not going to hold my breath. Baldur's Gate 3 came out last year, so it feels unlikely that like the Dragon Age creators played that game and then were like, we should put this in our game. So unless they thought of that on their own, which is not impossible, unless they did something like that, like they just thought of that all on their own, which is, again, not impossible. I agree with you. I feel like it's unlikely that we get like a strong representation of the Inquisitor in this game. I do feel that.
Yeah, and quite frankly, I don't know that I would want the Inquisitor to be as involved. I think if they came and pulled a Hawk and did a one mission or like a one act, something where they're relevant, that would be fine. But Dragon Age as a franchise has really, to me, been of what hero are you going to be now?
Yeah.
Now that you've played through a Blight, now that you've played through the kind of smaller, more intimate story of Hawk, now that you have saved the world again in Inquisition, like what kind of character, what kind of hero will you be? And I feel like it dampens it a little bit to rely so much on the hero from the previous story. I feel like it takes away from the decision and everything that you have focused on this new character. Because I do try to play, like, just for me personally, for anybody that might care out there, I do try to play each game's hero a little bit differently. Maybe they're all elves. Maybe that's a thing I do. Who's to say? But each one has their own morals. Each one has their own temperaments. Each one has their own way of making decisions so that it keeps things, to me, true in the world. Not everyone is going to play exactly the same way all three games. If you do, good on you. I don't know how you keep it that linear, but good on you.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. I mean, that's one of the things that, like, if I can let loose here for a second on the YouTube audience. Yeah, here we go. Get ready, guys. One thing that I've experienced throughout my playthrough, and I'm not complaining really about this, okay? Like, I'm a YouTuber, okay? that I have to accept the stuff that comes with the territory. Okay, so I'm not crying and bitching about this, but I will say, like, I've gotten a lot of comments of from people telling me like, "Oh, you did what? You did this? You saved them? You killed who?" Like, so many people who are just doing things. And it's like, dude, maybe I just played the game in character. You know, let me just do it my way. All right, my Inquisitor had like a little bit of like a short temper and very little patience, and that's just kind of what it was. And then towards the end, I feel like, especially with Trespasser, I feel like this got lined up for me like really, really well. Where it was like, listen, like, I have very thin patience for all the bullshit in this world. There's so much bullshit, and I just have like such little patience for all of it. And especially at the end, when like I'm getting it from like the human world of people who are like, why aren't you doing everything perfectly? Your Inquisition isn't up to snuff. We want to dismantle it. And I'm like, fuck you. I literally do nothing but save you. How dare you come to me with this? You know, like, it really made me feel like more in character, right? Like, a lot of people were like, how dare you kill the elves, the ancient elves or whatever. And it's like, listen, they kind of like got on my nerves, and they kind of felt like they were getting in my way, you know? And like, you know, maybe that was a little bit me. Maybe that wasn't necessarily just me playing in character. You know, fair enough. I'm not saying I'm immune to all criticism, but I am just saying, like, yeah, like, I play my Inquisitor kind of in character. And I think that's I think that's a perfectly valid. I think that's the way to do these games, right? Sometimes you want to make a decision, you're like, all I'm gonna be is nothing but understanding and magnanimous, and I'm just gonna help every person. I'm gonna hear out everyone's side, and I'm gonna see where they're coming from, and I'm gonna make what I think is the best decision. And sometimes you want to play a character who's like, listen, I have a lot of things to do. I can't hear you all out. Just shut up and get on my way, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'm starting to lose track of like where this thought spiral still originated from.
So basically, like, coming back to it, I think that bringing back the Inquisitor is going to affect Rook. I feel like that's going to affect the integrity, because then you're trying to play two different characters, their temperament. Are you really going to give Rook the attention?
Yeah.
Like you can do the way that you were doing. That's just how you played the game. You played the game a certain way, other people played it another way.
Yeah.
That's just how the dice roll. But I feel like it would do a disservice to this new character.
Yeah, it would inhibit the decisions they can make, right? If you have to balance like your decisions against if you have to constantly balance your decisions against like what the Inquisitor wants to do, it starts to become a little muddy. Yeah. All right, Jen, you have one prediction left. I have one left. You go first because I said so. Go.
Okay. Do you think our Rook is going to walk away from this game? So you haven't been a part of this because the Inquisitor did live, and Hawk, and we have our Warden. One of those has the option to die at the end of the game. That's possibly something that happens. Do you think they're going to bring that back for this game, or do you think Rook is going to be able to walk away? No worry about what's going to happen here.
That's a good question. Before I answer, I need a full prediction that I can write down here, okay? It's very important for this video and engagement that we have.
Do you think
No, not a question. It can't be a question. It has to be a prediction, right?
Okay. I predict that Rook will die by the end of this game.
Rook will die by the end of Veilguard. Okay.
Or at least there's the option there if you don't play your chips right.
Yeah. Okay. I will answer this. I want to hear one point of clarification on this. Can that include the end of the DLC, right? Because remember Trespasser was like the official canonical ending. But that was like the third DLC.
Yeah, but see, I raised you this. We don't know if and when DLCs are going to come out. Like, obviously DLCs will come out. That's just a money thing. Why would you not?
Yeah.
But as far as we know, this could be the path of Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age 2, which is the game ends, credits roll, and that's the end of the game. Like, I feel you don't get your DLC pass until we know. We can come back and do another prediction, but I don't think you get that. I don't think you get that pass for this question because we don't even know if the end of the game is the end of the game. We don't know if we're going to get Inquisitioned again.
Well, so here's the only reason I'm asking for that clarification is because, first of all, I do think we will get DLC. And if I was to, I would say if I had to put money on it, there's like, I think every time, like we could run the same bet like 100 times. I would put money like 99 out of 100 times. I would say we're getting DLC. And like, to further clarify, I think we're getting DLC with Rook as still the protagonist in the DLC.
That's an important clarification because that actually doesn't happen in Origins.
Really?
DLC is an entirely new character.
Okay, interesting. Okay, even still knowing that, I would still say at least 90 out of 100 times, I would still put money on we're getting DLC with Rook as the main character. So that changed me a little bit, but not very much.
Right.
Yeah, I still think, because I think, I don't know when Dragon Age Origins came out off the top of my head, but it must have been like late 2000s.
I can put it up somewhere.
Yeah, put it up in editing. Yeah, no, Dragon Age Origins came out. It must have come out late 2000s. That was a different time in video games, Jen. You know, the way that people treat characters in video games now is just, it's very different. I don't think they're killing off Rook and then doing a DLC without Rook. I don't think so.
Okay. But see, then it just depends where in the timeline it is. So I know you didn't get to play the other two DLCs for Inquisition, but those are technically ones that you can play anywhere in the timeline of the Inquisition.
Interesting.
Only
okay.
Trespasser is the one that you have to play at the end. So sometimes when I do my replays, I strategically put them in places because I think they would be fun.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not unheard of. That's the thing, right? Like, I've played games like I think Fallout. Some Fallout games have DLCs where you don't have to do it at the end. Final Fantasy 16, that's a recent game that had DLC, and that DLC was the kind of DLC that you could do. I think it had to be after a certain point, but it didn't have to be at the end, right?
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, no, the idea that like you can do DLC, it doesn't have to be at the end. You can do it as Rook. Actually, hang on. Sorry, I wasn't thinking clearly. No, you're right. That does change it, right? Because Final Fantasy 16 actually does illustrate that you can have DLC where you because literally, oh, I'm sorry. Oh shit. Oh fuck, guys, spoilers for Final Fantasy 16. Yeah, Clive.
Well, now you gotta reword that. I gotta cut that out somewhere.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. Sorry, I just made your editing job a lot harder. My bad.
I'll put a bleep over it.
Yeah. Okay, listen, guys. Jen's gonna put a little tag here. She's gonna bleep the thing earlier. She's gonna put a little tag here that says spoiler warning, flash, spoiler warning. Clive dies at the end of FF16. But they still have DLC that came out afterwards that stars Clive, and you can do it anytime before the end of the game, right? So yeah, I guess you could do that. Rook will die by the end of Veilguard. You know what? Oh, you're really shifting me on this one, actually. I think there are two possibilities for the outcome of Rook. I think that Rook will either die, or I think Rook will sort of fade into obscurity. Sounds a little bit mean or whatever, but I think Rook will effectively like fade into obscurity. Like Rook's gonna like either you die or like you go off to live on a farm somewheres. I don't think that you do like an Inquisition style kind of ending where like you just
Mhm.
let the character make a big pledge to come back in some big way and then
Okay.
stay away, because I feel like they must have learned that from the last game, right? Like you're just like you're just playing with your players' expectations at that point. It's like it's fucked up. You can't do that. Um yeah, I don't think they would do that. I think people would riot. They would be in the streets. You know,
Because I mean,
um,
they have done it before, and a lot of people are wondering how much kind of return to form there's going to be for the Dragon Age franchise, because Inquisition was a really big swing. Some stuff paid off, like you said, some stuff didn't. Some people still say that it doesn't feel like Dragon Age. Even 10 years later, they're still arguing that point. So in the Origins, which a lot of people that dislike Veilguard already and that are also pointing at Inquisition that it's not very good, are pointing back to Origins, saying that that was the better game out of the three out. And in that one, you do have the option that your warden might not survive the game if you don't find certain actions, if you don't do certain things, if you just kind of fuck up your playthrough a bit by not keeping an open mind about things, they die. And it's a self sacrifice, because, of course, it is, because they're wardens. They're the Grey Wardens. That's what they do. So that's the question.
yeah, and it's
Do you stick with that prediction?
yeah, and it's also so much cleaner, right? Like
Hmm.
if you're BioWare, right, or if you're EA, or like if you're a company that is trying to be putting out more Dragon Age games, do you want
Right.
to create like even more branching paths for the story? Probably not,
Hmm.
right? You probably want to make it so that like you probably want to leave yourself open to like create new games faster. That like
Right.
again, this is me using again like developer brain or whatever. Um, I wouldn't, if I was making this game, I wouldn't want to leave it so open ended that like, well, Rook lives and they vow themselves to be the protector of the land. And if there ever is another Dragon Age game, you can be sure we'll see that Rook again. It's like you wouldn't want to do that. That creates like so
Hmm.
many more complications for your whole team and everybody, making the next game. It's such a yeah, it's such a clusterfuck. Like I wouldn't do it. Um, Rook will die by the end of Veilguard. I'll say I'm going to give you this one, Jen. Strong possibility.
Because
Yeah, I think it's strong possibility.
I
I
will say for
I'm
oh,
sorry. Real
'cause-
quick, real quick, real quick.
uh-huh.
I won't say that it's likely. Like I don't want to tip it over like that 50% and say like, oh yeah,
Mhm.
likely that'll happen. Just because I think that there's like it'll make people like kind of upset,
Yeah.
Um, to like, oh, like my character has to die. Like that's fucked up. I spend so much time with them and I love them and I don't want to see them die. Um,
Right.
and there's also like you just don't really have to do it, like you can just have them say like, oh yeah, like after this you know after this adventure, Rook pulls a Frodo and they sail off into the sunset, you know
Hmm.
never to be seen again in Middle Earth, but they don't die.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
no, I bring that up because the way that you were talking about kind of writing yourself into a corner then with the different outcomes, that's mostly why we don't see the warden specifically in any of these games, because quite possibly the warden died in a playthrough and then they would have to write an alternative ending, an alternative something or other to bring them back or keep them dead. Like that's kind of why with Stroud, and I'll admit I misremembered what I was bringing. I wasn't thinking of the warden. I was thinking of Alistair, which is one of your companions. That if they live and they stay a warden, then they're the ones that come back, which is not as great as the actual warden, which is
as
your
the
character.
warden. Yeah,
Yeah. But it is a character that you spent an entire game with. They're with you from day one, kind of like your main Cassandra Solus Varric gang. So they're with you from day one, and you traverse the entire game with them. They are your best kind of buddy, or at least that's the main way that people can kind of play with him.
Mhm.
Versus like Hawk. But that's why we never got the warden in Dragon Age 2, and that's also why we never fully got the Warden in Inquisition to get that callback, because there are some playthroughs where the Warden could be dead. So I don't know. I predict that there's at least the option that if you don't get all of the special ritual, if you don't get the super special blade to defeat the elven gods or whatever, that there is a possibility that you could end up killing your rook at the end. I think if it is going to happen, it's going to be some sort of self-sacrificing move. I feel like that's what BioWare does in Dragon Age.
Yeah, I mean that would be very Mass Effect of them, you know.
Yeah.
Spoilers. Okay, I've got one more for you. Okay, you ready?
Okay.
Here it is. All right, you're gonna love this one. I guarantee it. I predict. I'm gonna type it out as I say it. Corypheus will return. In parentheses,
no,
in some form. No, I think I'm no. Okay, and I will fight you on this one. All right. I think I actually strongly believe this one. Yeah. No, this was like my second. This is the second one I wrote down. Okay. I strongly believe that he will, because in the final battle, when you beat him, when you defeat him, whatever, you don't stab him in the face with like a knife, right? Which, by the way, okay, side note, really funny actually. There's a part in Trespasser where like you have to decide whether or not to kill some guy who is like he's technically like I think he's technically like a Kunari guy, but he's like kind of defecting from them. You know who I'm talking about? That guy in the cave?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like this is like totally this is totally a tangent. But you have the decision to like say to him like, okay, get the fuck out of here, or you can tell him like, I can't let you live, right? And it was really funny and really jarring to me when, like, as a mage, I told him like, I can't let you live, and then I took out a knife and stabbed this poor guy. Like, why wouldn't I use like a fireball or like some kind of spell? Like, I guess it's like one of those things where like it's a limitation of like the game engine, you know?
Yeah.
To like have to like load in the information of like, what kind of character did you want to play? How are we going to make this animation work in this cutscene? You know? So I understand why they did it, but it's just really funny, like, to see it actually play out that way, where it's like, okay, I'm a mage. I've never stabbed anybody in my entire playthrough, but like this one poor bastard at the end, like he just gets knifed in the fucking ribs. Just because like he looked at me the wrong way. Yeah, I don't know. That was funny. But anyways, no, I think Corypheus, the fact that like we didn't spill his blood, we didn't cut his throat, we didn't like stab him through the heart or whatever with like
you broke his jaw.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, that looked really funny too, by the way.
It really did.
It just,
I had forgotten about that until I had to edit that portion. I was like, wow, that looks very goofy.
Whatever. I don't know what game engine they use for Inquisition, but like, Jesus, oh my god. Just the way that model looks, you know, with the weird slack jaw. It's very funny.
It was a choice.
It was. I think he's gonna come back though, because the fact is we don't straight up kill him in the way that you would kill like a mortal person. We cast him into the Fade. We use the anchor to open up a rift, and it sucks his body into there. And I think there's like a spectrum of possibilities, right? Like he could come back, and he could be like, because I think he was the antagonist in DA2, right?
No, he was a fun DLC that kind of almost acted as like a prelude to Inquisition.
Okay. Well, regardless, the point is, like, technically you can say, like, we fought him in DA2, we fought him in Inquisition. How funny would it be if he comes back as, like, you know, not necessarily like after we clear up and have this big story with Solus, it turns out the big antagonist is Corey in the house again, right? How funny would that be? I don't think that's like super likely. But I think that's a big stretch. But I think like a less big stretch would be that he comes back in some way, and it's literally just him, like, kind of in the way that Justina or Justinia or whatever, and in the Fade, how she's just like a spirit, and you don't even really know if it's her or not. Like, what if they do that with him? Where, like, at some point in Veilguard, you're going through the Fade, fighting demons and whatnot, and then you meet up with a spirit, and he's like, "Oh, I'm a spirit. I go by many names, but if you're from the mortal world, you may know me as Corypheus," right? Like, I don't know, something like that, where it's like, yeah, he's in the game. He'll offer you some insight. He can be kind of like he would be an interesting, like, window into viewing the events of Inquisition. Like, if you're playing as Rook, right, and you don't have access necessarily to the Inquisitor, and you want to be, because this game is like 10 years after the last one, they want to give players a way to, like, get up to speed. It would be interesting if they chose to be like, oh yeah, who do we want to, like, be like the info dump character? Let's grab Corypheus and let's put him in as like a spirit or something, I think that'd be interesting. And I actually think it's likely because of the way that we defeated him in the last game. I do think so, yeah.
I think you're leaning far too into into comic book rules and Marvel rules, where if we don't see a body, then they're not dead. I don't think so.
Listen,
I don't
the
think
rules are one and the same. There's perfect crossover between those.
Like, do I think it would be fun? I guess. I don't know. Corypheus was never one of my favorite villains, I guess, of the franchise. I do think it would be interesting to have him as a sort of info dump, maybe not necessarily for the Inquisition, but I think it would be interesting to have him, like, he thought all of these things of the Fade and the Black City and da-da-da-da-da, and then he got sent there for, I forget how long, was it 10, 20 years that it's been since the Inquisition?
I think so, yeah.
He's had to survive, or he died and is a spirit now trapped in the Fade. I think it would be interesting for someone that knew the legends, I guess, and then actually had to live it and how it's different or how it's not. He thought himself a Tevinter Magister old god, and now he was trapped in a place that actually has the elven pantheon of gods. Like, I think that would be an interesting maybe juxtaposition to be like, what did he think versus what the reality actually is, especially because he is super racist against elves. So I think it would be hilarious for him to see the elven pantheon and be like, oh shit, these are the actual gods that live here. My bad. I think that would be an interesting way to use him. Either that or just we tear down the veil and we find Corypheus and Hawk playing patty cake or something on one of their upside down rocks. That would be fun too.
Okay, I think that last little joke aside, I think you're lending some credulity to my theory though, right? Like, how interesting would it be, like, this guy to have to be the one to, like, catch us up to speed, coming from, like, that perspective that he has. How interesting would that be? That'd be cool. I think if I was a writer for Dragon Age the Veilguard, right, I think I would want to take advantage of that. What do you think? If you had to give that a rating, right, what would you say?
That's a D+. I don't think they're going to bring him back.
Really?
They will absolutely bring back companions. They'll bring back the heroes of the game. I have seen those happen in the other three. Again, just for anybody out there that made it this far, I do not look at any of the outside material. I'm not reading novels. I'm not looking at comic books. To me, the canon is what is told in the story, because not everybody is going to go out and buy that extra material. So in the games, I have yet to really see that they bring back a villain, quote unquote, from the games. They might allude to it. They might do a horror movie type of situation where we see something going on. Spoilers for Dragon Age, the Netflix one, the Netflix show. We do get some glimpses here and there, possibly, of the antagonist from Dragon Age 2, but I have yet to see that happen in a game. I give it a D+, C-. C- just because I think it would be interesting to do, but just because I think it's interesting does not mean I think it's something that they're actually going to do.
Really? I can't talk you up to like a C- here?
I I just haven't seen it, Andrew. I haven't seen it, so I don't know that they would just start introducing that into the game. I have to go with what I know.
Okay, but hang on. Let me ask you this. Okay. I'm only doing this because it's the last one, right? I am gonna fight you on this. All right. Listen, you haven't seen it so far, but what has been for the other villains in the series? What was their demise?
Well, I don't want to spoil the
Okay,
stuff
listen,
for
Jen.
you.
By the time I get to those games, if I even get to them, like I'm gonna forget. Just tell me.
Oh,
Just,
you're gonna get to them. You are
okay.
gonna get to them. I don't know when.
It's not gonna be before Monster Hunter, okay? Which means it's gonna be next year sometime in the middle of it.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
What? Just give me the demise
As long
real
as you
quick.
do too. As
Okay.
long as you do too.
Okay. Fair enough.
Well,
Oh,
in the first one, again, the villain is the archdemon. It's a blight. So that is the true villain. It's a giant evil dragon. But the antagonist that you have in that game, his name is Logain. You actually get the option to recruit him into your crew to like pay for some of the sins that he has done. Because again, he's never a person is never the actual villain. The actual villain is always an event. So he gets to kind of do hard time and really important community service
yeah.
for his sins. Um, and like, yeah, I guess they might have mentioned him in the second game, but by then I guess some people say he's redeemed, some people say he's not. You have the option to kill him or you have the option to do community service. Um, it really just depends on what you're feeling when you play that and your feelings towards him and his crimes. But we have never really had a villain come back
Okay.
in
Okay.
that type of capacity. So hold on.
Okay. Okay. I'll stop. Go. Finish your thought. Do your thing.
It would be something interesting and it would be something new. And I feel like as much as they want to placate people who have been waiting for the franchise to do something and maybe return to form a bit in lacking of the open world and going more streamlined, kind of like some of the other games that are more level based and things like that, I do think that they're still going to want to whip some new stuff at us. So
Uh-huh.
I will bump it up to a C minus just because I do think that they want to have, if they're going to include some new stuff, they would want it to be something new and interesting. And that is something that I have not seen them do with a villain before, that a villain or an antagonist from a previous game comes back. And I mean game, Corypheus was technically in Dragon Age 2, but that was a DLC. I mean in-game villain.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I hear you. And also, I'll say this though. Um, just based on what you're saying about like the Logain, was that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I've noticed this a lot, especially in Inquisition. You get this opportunity like 5 fucking times, right? Where you have like a mini boss, like a mini bad guy, who you defeat during one of like the main story missions, right? And then
Right.
and then you get to sit on your little Inquisitor's throne and you get to judge them and shit, and that's awesome. I love that part of the game. I think there needs to be more of that. But anyways, yeah, like you get so much of that in Inquisition. I feel like if it's the same writers, or if there are like, if there's a lot of crossover, like if there's, a lot of the same writers, maybe not all, but like if you have like people kind of writing in the same spirit as the previous games, I think they might want to revisit like a previous villain. Like there, at no point do you ever get to do that with Corypheus, where you get to like sit on your throne and judge him, right? So how cool would it
Right.
be is if like in Veilguard you meet him in the Fade somewheres, and he's just like maybe he's just like some fading spirit who's like about to like completely fade into oblivion, and you get to either save him and have him like help you, and then like he's like maybe bound to you in some way where like he has to help you, versus
Mm-hmm.
like for the people who are like, the Inquisition fans, the real fans, right? We get to say like, fuck you, I fucking hated you, you weren't even that good of a villain, and now I'm just gonna let you die permanently. That'd be a cool moment to include in the game. So yeah, no, I think, okay, listen, if I can't argue you above a C plus or a C minus, fine. I think it's a C plus at least. I think it's a strong B plus, frankly.
I
But
will give you the C minus. just because
Okay.
I do think they're going to want to do some new stuff with the game, and that is something that we have not seen. We have not seen, again, with Logain, which is debatable on if he's actually a villain or if he was just like what is it, an anti-hero of sorts. Like, that's a whole other debate. You really need to play the game if you want to sit down and have that debate. But we didn't really see it with DA2 into Inquisition. Again, I don't count Corypheus because that was a DLC that wasn't in the game for people playing along at home. But it is something new. It is something that hasn't been done before. And I do have that want from the game. I don't just want it to be a retread of like the best hits of the 3 games. I do want some new stuff in there. God help us all, depending on what it is. But I'll give you a C- because it's a new idea.
All right, sick. I got my C-. I'll take it. I'll take it. I can be happy with that. I can live with it. I think C- is very strongly possible. It's passing. It's possible, I think. Yeah. Okay, Jen, if you don't have any other big predictions, do you have any other big predictions?
No, those are mostly my big ones. You don't know enough of the game of people that I hope to see again. It's a very long list of other possible Tevinter people and Romani people. No, not Romani. It's the Ravini from Ravine, the people that maybe we'll get to see. So there is none of that, but there is one thing that I would really, really love you to know about, because I think it's important.
Okay, I'm gonna hang on. Jen wants me to know about. All right, go.
Now that we've established that Solus is indeed the Dreadwolf,
Yeah.
and the game was named after him for the longest time before they went with Veilguard, so clearly he's going to be a very important character.
Yeah.
I do remember, because I edited all of your videos, a couple of times you seem to have one major shiny issue with our dear Solus.
Is it that he's bald?
It is that he's bald.
Wait, it really is?
It really is.
Okay, wait. Okay, elaborate, expand on this.
So I dug up some of the concept art, the original concept art for Solus, and I think it's very important that you see some of the things that they were going to do with him before they settled on their final design.
Wait, really? Okay, hang on, send this to me. I'll open it up right now on the video. Oh God.
Keep going through it.
Okay, hang on.
Open the link and go through it.
Yeah, no, I'm okay. Concept art of what? This is you know, I oh God, that last one, Jesus Christ.
So here's what we got with the concept art. First and foremost, I just want you to know he did have hair.
Yeah. In most of these, actually, yeah.
Yeah, he did have hair, and also something else you should probably know is he was actually of color. So it's harder to tell in some of these, but he wasn't just like a bald white man.
Yeah.
And then this is one of the more, I guess, popular versions of Solus.
Okay.
Of the fan interpretation of Solus.
I will say Solus with like the somewhat clean like white hair. That's pretty good. That's a good look.
Yeah.
Like here on the last image on the left side, that's not bad. Oh, okay, hang on one sec. Yeah, no. Bring this up. That's not bad.
No.
That's pretty good, actually. I like that.
Yeah. So it's hard sometimes with concept art. I'll give you that. Some of these are rough to look at, but again, this is what they decided to show us. We didn't get to see everything. But at one point, we could have had something like this.
This would have been so good, honestly. Like
as opposed to what we got.
I love the like the earrings, like the multiple earrings along his ear, and like the skull decoration on his head.
Hmm.
That's actually like that's a really tight look.
Yeah.
Like it just like I think because so in here in this art, this is like by the way, we have like deviated from the purpose of this video like so hard, but that's fine.
I just needed you to know this,
no, that's
and I
fine.
needed the reaction.
I understand. I totally get it. Because I will say one thing, like when Soulless comes back and he is the Dreadwolf, right? He's in Dreadwolf
Hmm.
form, and he's got like the fur lining on one side of his jacket. Look, I mean,
Yeah.
listen, far be it from me to like shit on that look. It's a great look. It's really cool.
Hmm.
Um, but for him, like if he could have had like the skull on his head too, like, oh man, that would have been so good. That would have been amazing. God, I do really appreciate you sharing this with me. I think this is really cool. Do you have anything else to share with me?
Um, I think mostly just we can let anybody that watches this and possibly watches it all the way through. I know that you probably know if you're Dragon Age fans, there's a whole bunch of more stuff that goes on here that Andrew should probably be made aware of. Not just the fact that Solus at one point had hair, which he brought it up so many times. I thought it was very important for him to know that that was not one of the original choices
Yeah,
or the
guys.
only choice.
By the way, if you
Um,
want to hear my thoughts on Bald Solus, twitch.tv/GrimWhiteTV. There's a lot of bald mentions in
now we have
that.
to look at him for an entire other game. I'm gonna have to listen to this.
Yeah. Yep.
But just let me know if we should go and talk about him. There was some interesting last minute romances that were added. We know some of the stuff that was cut and some was added. If you want that to be in a video or if you want that to be in another podcast style thing like this, I think that could be something fun. Maybe you don't know about it. Maybe you do and you just want to hear someone else's reactions to it like I did. Because you never got that with your community. You relate to Dragon Age Inquisition. So
Yeah, true.
there's that.
All right. Awesome. Well, hey, I think that's all great. I think that's super cool to know. But holy shit, it's been a while since we started this episode, so let's get the fuck out of here. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. I know Jen does too. Doing these kinds of videos has been a lot of fun for us, but it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of work, especially on Jen's part. So please be kind. Leave a nice message for her down in the comments. And while you're down there in the doobly-doo, messing with all that stuff, make sure you subscribe so you can see content coming out. We're going to have a lot of stuff coming out for the release of Veilguard, and I know you're going to want to come back so I can see you again. Peace.